is the moment.
The Bachelorette is back. And the power
I'm gonna fall in love.
is in Jen's hands.
And I'm gonna do it my way.
ABC tonight.
Everything about her is great.
I feel so special.
Jen's looking like a queen.
My men are very, very hot.
Someone call 911. You are looking so fired.
This is the beginning of a new era.
The Bachelorette. All new tonight, 8/7 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Savaged. Unfiltered. Your host, Michael Gardner.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome to today's show. Welcome to Savaged Unfiltered with Michael Gardner. Joining me today is the co-host here on the show, Soslin Timison. Sos, welcome to the show, buddy. As you can see, I'm a little somewhat heated and a little bit of on a distraught type of demeanor. Obviously, you were told, we spoke off the air about this guest that I had on last night with Jimmy the Rant. What's your thoughts on that before we open it up with the rest of the show on that?
Well, you sent me a sound clip of it, and I absolutely I felt the pain. I felt your pain afterwards. I'm like, how can a person deceive the public? And not only that, but like pretty much steal from the public and off of a false claim. That's just upsetting. And then out of all the examples and out of like all the tips and tricks, you have to bring in the veterans. I mean, that's just like taking advantage of. I mean, you're putting the public at a vulnerability spot, saying, "All right, well, I gotta help out." Well, I kind of feel bad for Gary because, he's helping the veterans, so I'll allocate some resources for Gary's cause. That's just very upsetting. I mean, that's pretty low. That's pretty low for a person to do that.
Yeah, it is low, Sash. You mentioned something here. One of the reasons why I reached out to Sas this morning about this topic. Well, for one, the topic needs to be addressed because this is not the only time that scamming and people that commit these heinous crimes. Whether they're platforms of GoFundMe or just other organizations that provide funding like that, to causes. First of all, Sas, I want to say one thing here. The reason why I brought Sas on is we're gonna address that in the middle of this episode due to the military topic that was brought up. Okay, and Sas can vouch for that because something I'm going to bring up I found out very, very interesting in last night's conversation I had with this guest and Jimmy, that he brought up military, and some of the military was actually used in the scam that he was trying to pull out. And for one, Sas, my heart went out to the guy at first, because I'm a good-hearted person. But after hearing this, this conversation I had with him, things were starting to like not add up, so to speak. And I don't know if you ever heard of this terminology before. When you talk and you get into it a little bit more, you start to see the scam, literally come out, and it's really showing its ugly colors. And I think like right in the middle of that episode last night, Jimmy was really like, putting one and one together. And he says, I have to step in here. I really have to step in. And that's when everything kind of went like haywire with everything. Like he was really like, getting super defensive over the show. Not Jimmy, the guest that I had on. And, I mean, I really don't want to, it's just, I don't know, Sas. I'm a mix of words right now because, what's your thoughts on this, man? Well, I know I'm going a minute with talking, but this really is like a disgrace when people do this.
Oh, it is absolutely a disgrace. And not only that, but you also have not if you had a chance to go into his GoFundMe, if any of my listeners or if any of your listeners went on the GoFundMe page, you could already see in the writing that things didn't add up right. You could see like this. There were a couple misspellings. There were quite a few run-on sentences. And so normally if you were to do a GoFundMe page, you would have an organization that was backing you, especially dealing with the veterans. Normally there's like Wounded Warrior Project, Towers for America Project. And if you were to do this kind of a big project, especially raising over $100,000, you would probably set up a group organization to back it up. So it'd be more legitimate.
Hey guys, if you're looking for a steak, I know it's hard to find steak, right? A lot of restaurants that just overcooked, undercooked, just not to your taste buds, right? You want that juicy steak. Look no further than Omaha Steak. I love them, guys. Love them. If I didn't love them, why wouldn't I be promoting them on the podcast today? Go over to Omaha Steaks, okay? They are phenomenal, guys. The juiciest steak you'll ever taste in your life. Okay? A lot of people are like, well, how does it get delivered to your house? With gnats and bugs going to get into it. And no. It's not, you don't have to worry about all that. It is in a sealed, perishable bag delivered to your house. So you don't have to worry about the gnats and the bugs get into it. It's fresh from the time they ship it from their distribution center to the time it arrives at your house. The juiciest steak you'll ever have in your life, guys. Check them out today. Omaha Steaks. Love them. They're phenomenal.
Savaged, unfiltered.
And not like kind of questionable. So it's interesting how the individual like set up for only him, and it was like 100,000 pages, and it was just only for him. So it just didn't add up right whatsoever. And so then right there and then, I thought, looking back on it, I'm like, well, what happens if he was just kind of making things up, even on the religious aspect of it, and just kind of, because to tell you the truth, I found it to be offensive of what he said about the Christian faith.
Yeah, very, very, very offensive. I mean, we've had him on twice already, with myself and Sauce, and then also with Jimmy last night. And the reason why I wanted to bring him back on it is because I wanted to, learn a little bit more about his cause. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this right now, okay, on the show. My intention was never to make a mockery of.
Yeah. And how he was able to swindle some few bucks and swindle some few cents by making things up. Actually, not making things up, deliberately lying. And so this, and it was interesting when it was interesting that when you and I had him on and stuff, if you call your like self, and the reason why I was kind of speechless, I should say the other night, the other day when we were doing podcasting, when you and I were hosting him, I was able to just kind of, the reason why I was kind of left speechless is because I was trying to think, okay, things are not adding up right. And
and I was
when he was talking about like the dust, and he was talking about how, we're all stars and stuff. And, and so because the only reason why was because after the interview, I had one of my listeners reach out to me and says, hey, something's not right about him, because if he knew his Bible and stuff, he would know that like he would have different interpretations, and he would not be blaspheming God in a kind of a discreet and condescending way. Okay, I'll reach out to Michael about that. And that's why I was so hesitant about having him on my show, because I didn't want to, this is not the right place, and you can't be talking.
Yeah, Sas, we actually deciding to pull that episode off, but we decided to keep that on just so you guys understand, like where the dialogue was on that episode. So you can understand, like Sas and I were not making this up. This actually happened on the airwaves. And unfortunate, you're going to run into people that have issues like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then it was interesting because you and I talked last night, and I just wanted to not prepare. Well, I want to tell, for any of your listeners are veterans, first of all, my heart goes out to you. I, as a veteran and stuff, I take this as a very serious matter. because it's more of a slap in the face of the military, and it's a slap in the face of people that have died for this country. And so to have somebody do that is like an insult on the military, an insult on our veterans. So I would like to apologize on my behalf of Remember God Loves You and I'll meet at the finish line. That was not my intention. And I think I brushed that over last night, and I just I'll do a lot better job on vetting, but it was sad because first of all, if you get DO 215, which actually never exists,
Hmm.
that never exists, a DO 2. If a person, for instance, if you get out of the military, the only three ways that you can get out of the military is number one, if you finish out your contract, then you get DD 214. What your DD 214 is it has your rank, it has all your special, like it has your duty basis, your job you did in the military, your decorations, and where you were stationed at throughout the years, and it also showed you all your years that you served. That's number one. Number two, there's a dishonorable discharge. That's number two. What dishonorable discharge is, you don't get DD 214. You normally get an Article 15, which is actually worse than a felony in the civilian sector. Because
Yeah.
what an Article 15 is in relations to the military is if you did something really bad, like you did something with drugs, or like you did committed an affair, or you did all these kind of bad heinous acts, then you get an
Yeah.
article, and then you get an Article 15. Now, if you get an Article 15, you cannot join another military branch. You cannot join another. Military branch, and you cannot work for a government agency such as a post office, and you can't work at a public school, because that's like having a
Yeah.
felony on your record. So that's
Yeah, I mean,
something.
it goes down to a simple, I think even a library. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
federal funding going into libraries now these days. But you know what got me sauce last night was, as Jimmy and I were discussing this conversation with him, he goes into, saying, I was back and forth in the military, and Jimmy was like, I want to go into, you said you had 15 years. Like, where's the 15 years coming from when you only said you served 3.5?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I was back and forth in the military and this and that. And, Jimmy's trying to hold his composure. I mean, and shortly after the show, like him and I talked off the airwaves, and he's like, something's not adding up, Mike. Something's not adding up with this guy. I mean, he's literally like spitting lie after lie after lie on their show. And, at the end, Jimmy let it have it. Jimmy let him have it. Jimmy was like, you know, I think you're a phony. I think you're a disgrace to even bring up the military. You're a piece of shit for saying this and this and that. And what you're doing is wrong, and you should be called out on this. This show is all about that unfiltered raw. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call you out, and that's what I'm doing. I'm calling you out on your BS because you're literally scamming thousands upon millions of people in this country, and it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
completely wrong.
Well, and now that, but in my military career, I've never heard of somebody actually being in for 3.5 years, and then getting out after 3.5 years, unless if they did something really bad. Then I mean
Yeah.
that, and then, but on the other, well,
Or if they got hurt, Sauce. I mean, I understand like
yes,
there's a medical discharge, like it, but you've gotten hurt. I mean, I've had some friends,
yes,
that were in the military. I'm not going to say their name for privacy issues, but I mean, there's a couple friends that I've known, that only served like a year and a half. Some of them served like 2 years, 4 years, whatever it be, 6 years. But they had an honorable medical discharge, which is
retirement,
completely
and
exactly because it affects
yes,
their ability to commit the duties of the military. So that's why
yes,
they gave them a medical discharge. But
yes.
three and a
So
half years, yeah, that crap doesn't add up.
no, so for instance, when in my book, not my book, but in my life, I had suffered a massive illness when I was overseas. It paralyzed me from the neck down. So what happened was that the military, after I got better and after we took some time, the military did give me an honorable medical retirement. So it's like I've been in for 20 years, but it's, I'm allocated to all these benefits. But it's not, I mean, I shouldn't say I am allocated. I'm gifted with all these benefits. But
Yeah.
but just for you to say, for an individual say, but then here's the catch of it. Just because I got an honorable medical retirement doesn't mean I can go back in. It doesn't mean that I can hop back in and double dip. So for instance, you can't double dip in the same branch. If I'm stating, hey, you know what, I want to get out of the military, at 3.5 years. All right. Well, great. All right. So a normal contract would be at least 4 years active and 4 years in reserves. So automatically that doesn't add up right. So if you want to say, hey, I want to get out as soon as possible, and then what you have to do is that you have to purposely mess up in your job. You purposely have to do all these things to get out as soon as you can. Now, you will get out as soon as possible, but then it'll just be, hey, you know what? It'll be like, hey, we clearly see that you do not want to join the military. So we're going to discharge you, and we're just going to do a regular discharge. But then here's the caveat. You will not be able to join another branch because you're not fit for military. So you cannot double dip in the same branch. And about 2 years later, say, okay, I want to go back to a different military branch, or I want to go back in the same branch. You'll get denied automatically. And especially if you have charges. Like, it was interesting how he had criminal charges that were pending and stuff. And
Yeah, have you noticed that one part of the conversation where he got into it a little bit with us in the first part of the episode, and then I don't know if you've listened to some of the episode with Jimmy and I last night. Like he dug into that where he literally said, I have some charges that really never stuck and never held. So the military seen that and they were able to take me back, and I'm like, dude, it doesn't work that way. I mean, the military is not like a regular job, man, where you can go,
no.
Work at McDonald's and then all of a sudden they fire you because, you got some kind of DUI and then the DUI didn't go through. And they were like, okay, well, the DUI never, is not on my record. So we're able to take you back here at McDonald's. I mean, just using for example, McDonald's and the military is two different things. First of all, McDonald's is a regular civilian job. You're talking about a federal job, such as the military, whichever branch it may be. But here's the thing, Sas. I want to get into this right here with this GoFundMe thing, which I want to allow the listeners and then also your listeners too, if they had looked at some of his content through the GoFundMe account. Folks, we have decided to pull that off the show notes off that first episode with Sas and I. The GoFundMe link has been pulled off that episode. We decided to pull it off because of the scam that's behind it. So I do want to apologize for my listeners and also Sas's listeners that tune into his show as we're unfolding this scam through this gentleman, because this is a disgrace. My next question here, Sas, is what we're talking about. Is this rare for you to see something like this? I'm not sure, in the military, if even people in the military commit this type of action.
Hey guys, if you're trying to look for an organic product, right, you're getting tired of using the over-counter medication that's filled with chemicals, filled with all those nasty, cancerous ingredients, guys, head over to liverishi.com. That's right, guys, liverishi.com. What is Live Rishi? It's an organic CBD oil company that uses natural hemp oil in their products, guys. As you can see, I'm out and about right now. You develop a rash from walking in the park, grab that Live Rishi cream with you, rub it on there. I'm telling you what, guys, it's going to work like wonders. It's going to work like wonders. Use promo code SAVAGED UNFILTERED for 20% off your entire order, guys. And I'm telling you what, that's a great deal. 20% off your entire order. LiveRishi.com. Grab it today, guys.
Savaged Unfiltered.
Is this something rare, or is this something like, normal that you would normally see with scamming and thieves like this?
Well, so in the military, so I don't see active military. I don't see veterans doing this.
No.
Number one. I've seen veterans partner up with their community, with the church, and with other people, so it's got some credibility and it's got some backing and support. But so that's number one. Number two, all right, so for this kind of a scam, you really have to be desperate. You either have some kind of mental illness going on, or you're just trying to, like, you just don't have any respect for this country, and it's just a continuation of under um undermining and discrediting the military and discrediting our veterans as well. Because now here's what this does now. So because he's going around the community, because he's supposedly biking around America, which I don't really believe anymore. If he's telling people, hey, we're doing this for the veterans and stuff, and to find out that it's like all a fraud, look how bad of a picture that paints veterans on.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, yeah, hang on, Sauce. I was about to
Yeah.
say this. Like, you're saying that he's biking across the country, right? Like, and
Yeah.
and everything else. Like, he could be just saying that, just for emotional support. These scammers are very, very smart on how to paint the picture and how to have people actually fall along the trap with them. But I mean, like, this guy could be doing it, in the comforts of his garage or, his house, or even if he has a house. I mean, like, he mentioned that he's somewhat homeless and he's biking around the country. Well, that may be true. He may be biking around the country, but he's not biking around the country to look for support for homeless veterans and try to provide them tiny houses like he was saying.
Yeah.
He's probably biking around country to, just like you said, you brought up mental illness. He's probably suffering huge amounts of mental illness, as you probably can see it through his demeanor as he was on the show. But he's probably going around the country to try to maybe like look for a different area that could work for him and to commit more of this scam and to scam more people out. And if that's true, my hearts go out to the people that, that fall for this. Please, if you see somebody on that doesn't just seem right, that has like some type of, fake clause like this, don't be afraid to call these people out, because they're scammers and they'll do anything in their power to try to take your hard-earned money away from you.
Yeah. And
But
now that, but like, if you're a person of faith and stuff, it's like a push nudging on your heart. Well, we also have to have some kind of discernment, because I'm a giving person. I give my time, I give my resources, and I give full support. But one thing that just irks me, and one thing that's just very disappointing, is when I get deceived and when somebody lies to me right in front of my face.
yeah.
And then it
Well,
kind of gets.
hold that thought. We want to plug in this video, guys. Check out this video. We plugged in a video here to just show you exactly what Sas and I are talking about. Check this clip out.
Millions of people donate to GoFundMe accounts, but how do you know your money is really going to someone in need? As Lisa Guerrero reports, there are a number of scams out there.
When tragedy strikes, GoFundMe is the place to go to raise money. $10 million raised for victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting last year. $15 million donated by generous people after a tractor trailer collided with a bus, killing 16 passengers. There are hundreds of worthy causes on the site, but sometimes GoFundMe is used by criminals to turn it into GoFraudMe.
I'm Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. What you're being accused of is despicable. Did you intentionally injure your dog so that you could raise money from a GoFundMe site?
Reed Herjo made this claim about his 13-week-old puppy, Atlas. Myself, Atlas, and a friend were in a severe hit-and-run accident when someone ran a stop sign. Both his back legs are broke, he claimed on GoFundMe. People were so moved, they sent in $14,065. Turns out there was no car accident. Police say the dog's legs were broken when Herjo kicked him.
Our investigation determined that the subject had actually abused this animal and caused injuries to the animal that he was now trying to raise money for in a misleading way.
You raised over $14,000 on a GoFundMe site. What did you do with the money?
He pleaded guilty to animal cruelty. Then there is the case of 38-year-old Jeremiah Smith, an avid dart player who told his friends he had cancer and only months to live.
It broke my heart. I mean, I cried many times with him.
These good people were so touched, they donated to Smith's GoFundMe.
There were people that probably never heard of him that donated.
You couldn't help but donate. Even if I couldn't afford it, I was donating.
Turns out Smith was never sick. He spent $23,000 in GoFundMe donations on paying off debts, video games, and marijuana. He's pleaded guilty to theft.
He welcomed it and took advantage of so many people, and it was gut-wrenching, and to this day I'm still angry.
I hope they think twice, and I hope that they will see that karma will get them.
Savaged, unfiltered. I mean, we're talking about, like, for an instance here, Sas brought up a good point. Hat tip to, the network that put out that clip. In the clip, it's shown that, people will do anything in their power. They use like GoFundMe, they use, different types of platforms, mainly GoFundMe. We see a lot of scams with GoFundMe. I don't know if do you see any scams up in Wisconsin with GoFundMe a lot, Sas? I know.
Absolutely.
I always joke around. I say you live in probably like, one of the liberal states in America, but, you would think, hopefully there's not a lot of scams going up in liberal Wisconsin, but, do you see a lot of that?
There's scams for like days on end. There's like, you can find, and the only way that you can tell them that they're a scam is if you go on GoFundMe and stuff, you can really look at the English grammar. You look at the grammar and the way the structure, and some of them ask for like some odd, huge amount of money. And it's like, okay, well, and the sad part is that it comes from families too. So it's not just from one person. It's like families that are scamming people as well. And so it's very interesting. Like, for instance, in Wisconsin, there was like this one GoFundMe that got exposed because a family was asking for $1.2 million.
Oh my God.
Because their house got burned down and they were out on the streets, and then they had like 8 kids and stuff. Well, it ended up being just a husband and a wife and then a kid, their teenage son. So their 8 kids was completely false, and the 1.2 and their house actually never really burned down. And so it never stood on solid ground. So all of them got in trouble except the kid because he was underage. But either way, it's really sad that we have like all these, scammers going on. It seems, and another thing I also noticed, and here's what I also noticed. I noticed that, for instance, in Florida, in Texas, and in Oklahoma and Arkansas and Missouri, I noticed that the scams coming out of those states are very small amount compared to the scams in California, New York, Wisconsin, and Illinois. It all goes back to how, like, what kind of a job filter you have and what kind of your attorney general, how filtered is these kind of scams, like out and being pushed on either online and either on like social media, how filtered that goes through.
Well, they're con artists. That's for one. I mean, they're smart people. They know what the hell they're doing. They look at like whatever they're trying to commit, and they're going to push the button to the envelope. And for one, I mean, with the clip I just showed was like basically a clip that they had a family member kind of linked to what you had mentioned, with the house burning down or something like that. Well, this house was in foreclosure, and there was other things linked to that where, they said, they needed so much money and this and that. For one, everything they mentioned never happened. I think they went into like saying there was a car accident. That never happened. There was a dog that was involved. But we found out that the person that was committing this scam actually killed the dog, murdered the dog. You know, I mean, it's crazy the way you find this stuff out later in life, later into the conversation where the people are like just straight up lying. They just need money. They might be alcoholics or drug addicts, or they, like you mentioned, high levels of mental illness, which we see a lot in this country. So,
well, it's just disheartening when you have dishonest people in the society, and it's just really sad to see them. Like, overall, it's just really sad because I would have never imagined in my lifetime people would do this kind of, well, I shouldn't say that, but like to go to the extremes of getting money. That's like worse than robbing a bank, I would have to say.
Well, let's just say, Sas, you hear it on the TV, you hear it, maybe on, TV stations or series and stuff like that. But I get what you're saying. You probably would have never imagined it happen in actually reality. You're like, oh shit, this is actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, I think I'm glad that we caught the individual in his lie and in his deceptions, and hopefully my listeners did not donate a single cent. And I want to give it out there. If any of you guys have donated to his cause, there has been reports on his GoFundMe page as a fraudulent things. The GoFundMe will return your money back. Do you want to go into that, Michael?
I'll go into it briefly
Yep.
because obviously, I can't give a full analysis on that because it's, if it has been reported, like you mentioned, and there are reports coming out that there are, fraudulent activity going on in that GoFundMe page of his. I don't know what the outcome of it is, so we'll leave it at that. But I noticed myself too that there have been reports coming out saying that there are suspicious activity going on within his page, and there have been reports submitted to GoFundMe. So hopefully, like Sas says, hopefully, if you have decided to donate to that cause, GoFundMe is a company that it's I believe it's set up as like a nonprofit organization where the GoFundMe really the reason behind GoFundMe is like it was set up for for funding through like organizations and charities and stuff like that. So if you ever donated to his cause or if you donated to any other cause and you were a victim of fraud, GoFundMe will automatically 100% return and refund your money back to the account, the original method of the account that you used to make that donation. So yes, you're absolutely right. There are being reports coming out of that page, and hopefully that page that he set up gets shut down. And it goes from there. I mean, it doesn't deserve to be put up there if it's not going to an accurate organization such as, like you said, Wounded Warriors Project or Tunnels to Towers organization up in New York. So it's unfortunate that we run into to people like this that take advantage of the system.
Yeah. So. Alrighty. Well, I don't know if we have anything else to say, but I think I might be calling it an episode. What do you think?
That's pretty much where I was going to go at. We're going to keep it around like 29, 30 minutes into the episode. Sas, I do want to thank you for making your time available on the show.
No problem.
This had to be addressed because, I mean, people out there, it's what they're doing. It's terrible. Remember, guys, before we close it out here, I want to give Sas the floor here and literally say, if you'd like to follow some of Sas's content on his podcast, you can follow him on Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon Music, as well as Alexa and Google with his podcast, Remember God Loves You, and I'll Meet You at the Finish Line, hosted by Soslin Timison. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Have a blessed day.